Canada's case count has now surpassed 601,000, and the federal government data also shows it took just over 2 weeks to add 100,000 infections to the national tally. The virus has claimed more than 15,000 lives across the country.
The federal government is promising to fix a loophole which allowed traveling Canadians to collect hundreds of dollars in aid.
It comes as controversy continues to swirl over politicians taking holidays abroad over the holiday season. CTV's Rahim Ladani is following the latest developments. He joins us live now with more. Rahim.
Well, Michelle, frustration is growing among Canadians as more than a dozen elected officials have now been caught traveling outside Canada, and it's prompted Ottawa to look into changing how the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit is applied. For months now, Canadians have been hearing the federal and provincial governments tell them not to travel outside the country unless it is essential. But the list of elected officials not heeding their own advice continues to grow.
The most toxic thing in politics is hypocrisy and lack of transparency, and this smacks of both of them.
At least 13 politicians have been caught traveling outside Canada as the country's COVID case count soars past the 600,000 mark. Now, former Ontario Finance Minister Rod Phillips was among the first after admitting to traveling to the Caribbean island of St. Bart's in December. Among the latest is Ontario MP Kamal Khera. She's stepping down from her parliamentary secretary post after a trip to Seattle last month for a family memorial. And Quebec MP Patricia Latanzio admitted to traveling outside Canada's borders during the pandemic, saying she took an essential and necessary trip to Ireland in September to help her daughter move.
There's potentially a really corrosive aspect to this issue, and when we see those politicians making those mistakes and not really facing much of a consequence for them, in some cases no consequence at all, that just reinforces that message that there are essentially different sets of rules for different individuals.
The scandals now have some debating whether Ottawa should bar globe-trotting Canadians from getting the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit. It turns out some vacationers who defied public health recommendations by traveling abroad were able to collect money when they got back and had to quarantine. The Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit allowed people whose income was affected by the 14-day quarantine to receive $500 a week. In a tweet, Government House Leader Pablo Rodriguez called the provision unacceptable, saying it will be fixed as the government owes it to healthcare workers and to everyone who respects the rules. Now, the federal employment minister has also come out and said the benefit was designed to provide workers with a paid sick leave option and not travel with paid time off on return, and added the government is actively looking into options to address this issue. Reporting live, I'm Rahim Ladani.
Manitoba's so-called vaccine super site is opening today. A large convention center in Winnipeg is being used to hold thousands of COVID-19 vaccines to help people get immunized. Thousands of appointments have already been made for this week, but hundreds of slots are still open. Only certain healthcare workers whose work involves direct contact with patients are eligible to get the shots. Manitoba hopes to vaccinate 40,000 people against the virus by the end of January.
In the UK, the first doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine are being administered today. Brian Pinker was the first in the world outside of clinical trials to get the shot today. The Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is cheaper and easier to use than the one made by Pfizer-BioNTech because it does not require super cold storage. The 82-year-old says he hopes others follow suit and also get the vaccine. Pinker says being the first was a special moment for him.
The vaccine means everything to me. I mean, to my mind, it's the only way of getting back to a bit of normal life. You know, this virus is terrible, isn't it?
The vaccine is being administered at a small number of British hospitals right now. That's so authorities can watch for possible adverse reactions.